Um, Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to wait for a few minutes, a few moments for a few, hi, Michael, for a few people to jump on. We can get started. Okay, so let's do a bit of house cleaning or housekeeping first. House cleaning. If you can give me a sound check, it'd be fantastic. Hi, James. How are you? Um, so if you can hear me, okay. Somebody give me a 5x5. It'd be fantastic. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm just going to assume you can hear me. Um, and thanks very much, Michael. Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Um, Hello, I'm Glenn Miller from the LFS Movement of Ireland. And I just want to cover a few things that have happened over the last weekend and a few things in the news. Um, you're very welcome this evening. I don't do live feeds very often for the very reason is that uh, they're quite difficult to do. So I'm not an RTE presenter and I don't claim to be. And so anyway, bear with me. So if you haven't liked the Elevest Ireland movement yet, and you are interested in doing so, I would recommend that you jump onto our page and have a perusal and see for yourself what we're about. And maybe not listen to silly rhetoric from the fake media and from other individuals who claim to be authorities in all things. So let's get started. What's on the agenda? So, well, the first thing is I'd like to congratulate everybody who turned up for the freedom of speech rally outside Dáil Éireann. It was a fantastic afternoon. We had about roughly a conservative estimate of about maybe 300 people, patriots, who came and listened to various speakers from various different groups. We had representatives from the Irish Freedom Party who did some absolutely fantastic pulling out all the stops with their banners and their people. Some fantastic speakers. We had Renua. They had a couple of speakers as well. And we'd like to congratulate them as well on standing up for free speech. We also had Direct Democracy, who also stood up for free speech. And we also had Ian O'Doherty, who is a reporter for the Irish Independent, who basically stood up in defence of free speech, despite the accusations and the pigeonholing, I'd like to call it maybe, of the fake media calling us the far right. I'll deal with that in a few minutes, but so I would just like to congratulate everybody and thank everybody for the massive effort that everybody put into it, and hopefully the next one, which is on the 15th of December, everybody could make a huge big effort in relation to that one and share it, invite your friends, invite your family, and make a bit of an effort. For all those who are, critical of what we are doing, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. You're entitled to your opinion, and we are entitled to disagree, and that's what free speech is all about. If the Fine Gael government wants to curb free speech, it isn't because they want to protect anyone or any group or any minority. They actually want to curb the dissent against the government, which is rising on a daily basis because people are not happy, and we know why. So again, well done, fantastic result. Some brilliant people, lots of connections made, and you did your country proud. And again, every single individual has to decide for themselves and themselves only, are they going to stand up and be counted? Don't worry about what other people are doing or saying, or whether they agree or whether they disagree. It's what you have in your own heart. So if you want to stand up for your example, and by doing that, you will inspire others. And those people who are those people who are most critical of what you're doing will eventually become, most likely, your top supporters. In any event, well done, fantastic. So keep sharing the posts. It's very important that you share the posts, because we don't pay Facebook, obviously, for the dissemination of our content. So that is solely down to the responsibility of each and every single one of you. And for everybody that does share our content, for everyone who does comment, like, and all the various aspects of social media, thank you very much. And please, 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 please remember, it's vital. It's vital to the sport, the support of the movement. Again, Facebook is only one aspect of the movement. We have a web page. You can find it on www.yellowvestireland.com. We have a blog on that. It's just started recently. We've had a few technical issues in relation to it, but we've finally resolved them and got it back up and running. So you're most welcome to sign up for that. Just literally type in www.yellowvest.com, yellowvestireland.com, and follow the instructions. Send your email. You will get an email in return to ask you, do you consent to having a newsletter sent to you? And it's important that you return that email of consent, because we have to comply with the data protection laws and all of that stuff, and you know how that's very difficult and very important. We don't want to be getting ourselves into trouble, and all of that. So those who have already signed up, thanks very much. There's about 350 have already, 250, 400 have after signing up already in the last week. So if you haven't already, please do. So again, remember, your activity online is very important, and it helps get the message out. Failure to help us get the message out, it will take us longer and longer to actually get any results. Our idea in relation to the Yellow Vest movement, it has always been and will continue to be dissent against the government. Now, in relation to that, I just want to point out the fact that since the weekend, we had a counter protest at the weekend on Saturday against free speech, and those in that particular group, as I said, are entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to demonstrate and voice their opinions. And the irony here is that they're against free speech, and yet they're happy to protest. So we'll leave that alone for other people to discuss. But the point is, a lot of people are spending an awful lot of time focusing on these individuals and discussing them and taking pictures of them and calling them names, etc., etc. I would actually like to ask as many people as possible to desist from doing this, because our focus is on the Irish government, which is the Fine Gael and the Fianna Fáil coalition. That's our focus. That's the group that has caused the most damage in the revolving political elites in Ireland. They've caused the most damage. So please, forget the nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's silliness and it's nonsense. You're making these people irrelevant, and they're not. They're a tiny minority, and it sucks to be them. So let's just move on from them and let them off. They have a right to their free speech. They have a right to what they believe in. We have a right to disagree, and never the twain shall meet. I pointed out to somebody today in a conversation that despite countless times of asking these individuals to share their policy, to share their opinion, to show us their solutions or what they suggest as a solution to the issues facing the Irish people, they have consistently refused to. So one can only come to the conclusion is that they don't actually want the solutions to be resolved. And we know why that is, because it's profitable. Because these groups end up, a lot of these people end up working in outreach groups for various different issues, which are very important, but these people end up working in these outreach groups and they get paid quite a lot of money to do so. It's not voluntary. It's not like they've volunteered to spend their evening knitting scarves for the homeless, or they're getting paid in a job which is in line with HSE funding, HSE pay scale salaries. So if anybody knows what the pay scale salaries are in the HSE, and I'm not talking about the nurses, and I'm not talking about the staff that work on the front line, I'm talking about the staff that work above the front line, the managers, etc., etc. So if anybody knows the salaries of these people, you can only guess then the salaries of these people working in the outreaches. And there's essentially NGOs. And it is essentially an industry, make no mistake about it. The charity industry in Ireland is massive, with over 3,000, maybe 4,000 charities registered in Ireland. Incidentally enough, AIB, Bank of Ireland, and Permanent TSB are also registered as charities, and that's why they don't pay any tax. So look into that yourselves and educate yourselves in relation to it. Despite the massive profits that they've declared, they pay zero tax contributions to Irish society. Part of the reason why we're in the mess we're in. So, okay. On the 23rd of this month, next weekend, next Saturday, at 4 o'clock, we are having a mass sleep out, and everybody's invited. Every group, if they want to represent themselves, are invited. Please feel free. Nobody is excluded. We would only ask that everybody respects everybody else and treats everybody with equality. So if you are free and if your health is okay to do so, we would love for you to join us next Saturday from 4 o'clock, and we will sleep out for the night. So far we have about 250 volunteers who have volunteered to sleep out that night in solidarity with the homeless, and about 800, 900 interested parties also showing an interest. And hopefully we could possibly have one of the largest sleepouts in the state's history, to highlight the disgusting policies of the Irish government in relation to the homeless issue and the escalating crisis, which will now see 4,000 children again this Christmas spend another Christmas in emergency accommodation, hotel accommodation, and as such. And it's frankly disgusting. It's shameful, and yes, the government are to blame for the inept policies that they have created, but we are responsible for not doing more to highlight the issue and to apply political pressure on the political parties that represent the government. So again, going back to what I had said there a few minutes ago, we need everybody to stop bashing each other, because it's just senseless. It's silly. None of us are in politics, none of us are in government, and none of us have the power to change anything. But what we do have the power collectively to do is to unite under one banner. We don't have to stand there and agree with each other. We don't have to stand there and kiss and hug and all of that stuff. But we can apply massive pressure, because we are the majority. We can apply massive pressure, political pressure, on the political elites of Ireland. And it's your choice whether you want to do that or not. It's your choice. You must decide for yourself. There's no point, criticizing other people for doing it. There's no point criticizing an individual for speaking out because he sometimes said that he was involved with something else, or blah, 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 blah. That's just ridiculous. You're going to do for yourself. It's your responsibility. You decide or don't decide. You sit on the fence or don't. It's up to you. We can only try and empower you, and you have to decide whether you do it or not. Now, the other thing is that Facebook commentary is extraordinary. You could possibly write a book in relation to it. People seem to forget that they were taught manners by their parents, and they were, brought up with a bit of decency. And some of the commentary is frankly fairly disgusting and colourful, to put it mildly. And I would ask people to bear in mind that when you're making a comment and you say some of the things that you do online, that other people are watching and other people are reading your comment. And all you're really doing is embarrassing yourself. If you can't write a sentence without a swear word, or if you can't write a sentence without abusing somebody or calling somebody a name or because they just disagree with you or whatever, then that's more of a reflection on you than it is on anybody else. And it doesn't make your opinion any more valid or your comment any more valid. In fact, it probably makes it less valid. So just bear that in mind, that sometimes it's nice to be nice, and sometimes if you disagree with somebody, you have the right to disagree with them, of course, but you don't have the right to abuse them. So don't abuse people, act your age more appropriately, because before, people were able to discern the difference in commentary or in a conversation with an individual or with other groups or people, whatever. When you're having a conversation with somebody, you were able to discern whether that person was just angry and frustrated, and you were able to make allowances for that anger and frustration, because you're there in person, you're speaking in person, you're talking in person. And we've lost that ability on social media because we're not talking in person. And we attack each other on a one-line sentence is apparently your politics now. You know what I mean? So fucking daft stuff, but sure, however. So I would ask people to remember that your comments reflect on you, but also your comments reflect on the movement itself. And all of these labels like racism and the far right and all this nonsense is is generated by your commentary. And we're held responsible for what you say. But hear me when I say this. You are responsible for your own commentary. So what you say in public falls on your shoulders and your shoulders alone. There's no reflection on any movement, any group, or any associated body, because that's unfair. That's unfair to ask anyone to police 30 or 40 or 50,000 people in their commentary. That's your responsibility. You're all adults. I would like to think that you're adult enough to police what you say as an individual. And that makes it easier for everybody. So, yeah, okay, fair enough. We'll move on from that. So, in relation to that, actually, we had an individual for the last 2 weeks or week. So there's a massive protest for the homeless movement on the 5th of December. Most people know it, and various groups from all over the country are getting involved in it. However, the so-called organizer or the self-appointed organizer of the movement has released 2 videos asking or demanding that the Yellow Vest group, you, and people like you, have no involvement in it and that are not welcome. In addition to us, they've also targeted other groups such as the Tulsa Warriors, the people fighting against wards of the state, and a couple of other groups. And look, that's just silly. It's silly. Every single individual in this country has the right to protest. Every single individual in this country, in our constitution, has the right to assembly and to demonstrate against something that we personally feel that is not right. And nobody, absolutely nobody, has the right to tell you you're not welcome. So I would strongly recommend that if you are wishing to help in the fight to apply political pressure on the government, that you come out on that day and wear your vest. Don't wear your vest. That's entirely down to you. But represent yourself and help apply the pressure for the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are stuck in limbo and spending another Christmas in the homeless situation. And remember, the homeless figures only bear for those that are in government emergency accommodation. It doesn't reflect anybody that's sleeping on the street. They're not included in the homeless figures. They're the people who are couch surfing are not included in the homeless figures, and people who are living have returned home to their families and their parents, and they too are not reflected in the homeless figure. So you can only imagine that the homeless figures in Ireland are astronomical. In relation to various things, now there's a few things in the news. I'm going to pull them up so I can have a talk about them. I'm not going to get too in deep about it. It's nearly 6:30 in the evening. Everybody is either on a bus or on a train or in a car or on their way home, and hopefully they get home safely. So I want to finish up as soon as I can, so everybody can go about their evening. So I'm just going to turn this on. So, oh, by the way, this week I'm a communist. Last week I was a Nazi. The week before that I was something else, according to some individuals. But that's silly stuff. Silly stuff indeed. Would you mind grabbing that for me? Thanks. Sorry. Life. family, life, and all that. So here we go. So the individual who was caught assisting a criminal organization in providing information on a murder case has been given a suspended sentence. A suspended sentence for impeding an investigation and assisting a criminal gang. So, love to know your thoughts on that. If anybody has any thoughts on that, please feel free to write something about it and post it in the Yellow Vest group. Okay? If you're not a member of the Yellow Vest group, very easy. Yellow Vest group, apply to join, and if you have something, please post it. Try and get involved a little bit. Try write a little bit, and let's try and resolve the issue. So if people have some suggestions, if people have some ideas, if people have some creative solutions to our problems, we'd love to hear from them, because it's hard constantly to be saying, down with that sort of thing, you know what I mean? Down with that sort of thing, it's kind of a revolving Father Ted feature. We know all of the issues, all of the problems, and we'd love to start creating some policies in relation to solutions that you might have to offer. So if anybody does, please do so. Empower yourself. Don't wait for others to do it, because half the time that's what causes the problem. So Galway it could be soon not regarded as a city of culture due to the increasing insurance costs. And as you all know, the insurance costs have skyrocketed through the stratosphere, and we're all paying about 100% or 200% more for our insurance. On private insurance, but on commercial and business insurance, it's actually crippling a lot of businesses. And then with all the fraudulent claims from the likes of members of Fine Gael, that's definitely making a massive impact in what we have to pay as insurance costs. So if anybody has any ideas or solutions or thoughts on the insurance issue, please, by all means, let us know. Put something up, create something, and put it out there, and let's debate it. Let's discuss how we can refine it, or do we agree with it or disagree with it? That's the important thing about freedom of speech. Now, we have what's her name? I'm trying to find it here. Oh God, where's it? So the Fine Gael candidate for County Wexford, Verona Murphy, the lady who believes that there is no homeless crisis in Ireland. Yes, I said that. She believes that there is no homeless crisis in Ireland. And she definitely believes there's no homeless crisis in Wexford, which is an absolute joke, because there is. But in any event, here's the issue. Today, or over the weekend, she is apologising to asylum seekers. In addition to that, she suggested that asylum seekers in Ireland have been infiltrated by ISIS. Wow. So she gets a free pass, and everybody pats her on the back, and we're called racists for suggesting the same thing. So listen, it's a big deal. There are, and I don't want to focus on the refugees, because the refugees is not the problem. Refugees are only a small minority of people who are brought to this country by the government. And they're essentially not the problem. There's about 70,000 people who've gone through the refugee program over the last decade. There's currently about 7,000, just under 7,000 in the program. 80% of those who have gone through the program have been denied refugee status and given a deportation order to deport themselves. Of course, they don't deport themselves, and the government has no way of checking. This is where it gets good. The government has no way of checking to see if they've left or if they have self-deported themselves. However, a lot of these people continue to sign for social welfare. They are housed by the local councils and local authorities, and they get onto various different schemes, and etc., etc., etc. So the fact that one group is not talking to the other group shouldn't surprise you, and that their name doesn't pop up on the Department of Justice's radar saying that this person has been living in council accommodation for the last 10 years because they didn't adhere to the deportation order. However, that being said, refugees are not the problem. They are contributing partially to the problem, but the problem is mass migration, and that's the policy of the Irish government. The Irish government is targeting third world countries and promoting Ireland as a destination, as a welfare destination. And yes, there's 1.2 million foreign nationals in Ireland, and there is a vast majority of these people are working, contributing to Irish society. They have Irish children, first generation Irish children. Leo Varadkar is one of them, and these people contribute to Irish society. Some of them don't. Down to you and I to discuss. That's down to whatever department, whatever arm of the state, whatever it is, to enforce whatever policy they have in relation to dealing with that. Because we can all shout and scream on the street about it, but sure, that's not actually resolving anything. It's just we're just highlighting the fact that that it is an issue. So the issue is causing problems because there's a major demand now on our health system. Within the last year, our health system went from a waiting list of 700,000 to 1 million people, with an increase of 6,000 people per month to that list, 6,000 people per month, and that massive jump, it correlates to the jump in people moving to Ireland to live here and work here and create a life. And people generally don't have a problem with that, only that if you're waiting on a hip and you're in the queue and you see other people going ahead of you in the queue, it can get very frustrating and you can become very angry because of it. I myself have been waiting for a hip operation for over a decade, and a lot of people say that there's all these various different programs and things that you can get involved in the state and stuff. But there's a catch to all of it. There's a catch-22. But I'm not going to go into that. But the point is, people are frustrated and people are angry, and you've got to understand that they're frustrated and angry. They feel like second-class citizens in their own country. That does not make them far right. Okay? It doesn't. It makes them pissed off. Simple as. They're angry. And they're blaming minorities for that. It's the classic case of somebody needs to be blamed, so let's blame the weakest in our society. I ask you again, and I ask you repeatedly, your target is Fine Gael and the Fianna Fáil fake opposition. The revolving door elite political class who sponge of all of our hard work. They're the target. They're the people that you need to be discussing on a daily basis. Stop targeting minority groups, because that's what makes you look like a racist. These people, regardless of whether they're an economic migrant or whether they are a refugee or an asylum seeker, either way, they're fleeing a country that has nothing to offer them. Somebody recently famously said they're fleeing shitholes. And there was great consternation about the reference to these countries being shitholes. I, for one, have been to some of these countries, and they reflect exactly that. Unfortunately, there are regimes in these countries, just like the regime in this country, who are ruining the nations. Now, ideally, what we'd love to see is these people return to their countries and they become the cream of the crop, and are able to change their societies for the better. But the difference is over there, they get shot to death or murdered or thrown off a roof or having their head chopped off on YouTube. Over here, they just get welfare. So I'm being flip because it isn't fair sometimes. We can be all serious, and you can listen to people and really believe that their opinion matters. My opinion does not matter, okay? And your opinion doesn't matter, because neither of us are in a position to enact government policy that will change what's currently going on in the country. What we do need is a new political class. And the likes of Renua, the Freedom Party, and DDI, and a few others, that's the alternative choice to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. So how do Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael keep getting into power? Well, it's very simple. Very simple. So over about 60% of the Irish population eligible to vote have registered to vote. Of the 60% that have registered to vote, only about 45% actually vote. So that's in and around, and I'm being really rough with the figures here. You know, you can fact check them yourself. And if you do get proper statistics, please send them on. But I can guarantee you, it's in and around 35% of the population eligible to vote are making the decisions for the rest of us, because we don't hold any value in our vote, because we don't hold any value in democracy, because we've had a revolving door of inept governments, of elitist, clannish, parish pump politics, who have done absolutely bugger all to help this nation grow. Going back to the government's policy in relation to mass migration, the Irish government is going to spend of your money, okay? You have to remember this, of taxpayers' money, 116 billion euros. Let that sink in for a second. To help foreign nationals emigrate to Ireland. They want to bring 1 million people in over the next 10 years. Now, if things are bad now, things are going to get a lot worse, because they're not building, they're not providing more services, they're not expanding any services, so things are going to get rough. And if you think you're being left behind now, over the next 10 years, this is just going to become an absolute nightmare. Now, 1 million more foreign nationals into Ireland means that there'll be 2.2 million foreign nationals living in Ireland. So the demographics are going to change drastically in Ireland over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Now, our policy in relation to the demographics and the demographic change is that, first of all, we have no issue with anybody coming to live and work in Ireland. We have no issue at all with anybody coming to Ireland. However, what we do have an issue with is this: that 116 billion euros. Currently, Ireland has 2.2 million Irish people living abroad. These people left Ireland as economic exiles. The very same reason why all of these people that are flooding into Europe from various different countries in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, or Eastern, well, you know, India and Pakistan, is the very reasons why we did the same thing for the last 100 years. And our population has never really increased, drips and drabs and floods and what have you. But over the last 150 years, our population has stagnated at about 4 million people and never really gone above it. 3 million, 4 million, 3 million, 4 million. It's always around there, right? But we have 2.2 million Irish people born on this island, living abroad. Now, let me talk about those 2.2 billion or 2.2 million people for a second, right? They are citizens. They were born here, right? And they left here to work abroad. But those that leave here to work abroad are the majority of which were educated to third level education. And these people are contributing to the societies and the countries that they live in right now, like America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, France, Germany, every nation on earth. There are Irish people who are highly educated, highly motivated, working and building the economies of those nations. Our government calls this the rite of passage. The rite of passage. I personally have relatives that live abroad. My own sisters will be emigrating in the new year for greener pastures, as they call it. A life-changing experience. They have spent, half a decade in colleges around Ireland studying to become educated individuals to contribute to society, and they're going to contribute to somebody else's society, and you paid for them to do that. Remember that. And the policy is wrong. Simple as. The policy is wrong. That 116 billion euros should be spent on retaining people in this country, on creating the opportunity for people to prosper, for businesses to prosper, for businesses to grow, for individuals who have ingenuity and entrepreneurship to be able to stay here. But the system is so stifled, it's so inept, it's so corrupt, and it's so expensive that our people are forced to go away. So the government's answers to that is to bring in a lot of cheap labor from Africa, from India, from Pakistan, and from wherever else. But that doesn't serve anybody. It certainly does not serve the people that they're bringing in, because they're the ones that are going to be on the low wages, and they're going to need to be propped up on the welfare. So there's a big problem here. To have this discussion, we need to have it. We need to have this discussion. We need to finite our immigration policy. We need to focus not just on the people who need our support, who need our assistance, who need our humanitarian assistance, but also on the people who deserve it and have a right to it. And that is the citizens of this country. And the government that represents everybody living on this island, despite their colour, despite their creed, and despite their religion, has a responsibility to everybody on this island and those that have left this island. But the government doesn't. Now, the government made a new appointee, the Minister for Diaspora, who goes around cutting ribbons on various different things. But what is he really doing? Because every year, year on year, for the last decade and more, we have an average of about 60,000, between 30 and 60,000 Irish citizens, as soon as they finish college, fly away. Fly away, little bird. So in the news at the moment, we're talking about the remittance of foreign nationals sending money home, and in relation to various different countries and who sends the most, where, and how they're sending it, and the largest proportion per capita, and blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. If you're working for money, that's your money. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can go down to the local bookies and you can sink it there. You can go down to the local pub and you can sink it there and piss it against the wall. You can go down to the local fountain and toss it all into the fountain. It's your money. You decide what you want to do with it, and it's nobody's business what you do with that money. However, if you're involved in criminality, if you're involved in crime, if you're involved, especially if you're involved in tax evasion, then it is everybody's business, because you're not contributing to society as a whole. There's something wrong. So first of all, you should be punished. Second of all, jailed. And if you're not from this country, once you're jailed, as soon as you finish your prison sentence, you're deported, physically deported, put on an airplane and dropped off in the country of origin, and let them deal with you there. So Lisa Smith is coming back to Ireland with the aid of the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Irish Defence Forces. And what does that mean? Again, this councillor, Fine Gael councillor down in Wexford, who has decided that the irony of this, the irony is Fine Gael are allowed to say it, spin it, and sell it. And we as ordinary Irish people, who are not as refined, and we don't have some shyster standing behind us who is able to word things the way it needs to be worded, so the PC public who are offended by the mere suggestion of certain types of trigger words, we don't have that. So give us a fucking break. You know? Simple as. The newspapers keep calling the Yellow Vest movement and all of these various growing opposition political parties as the far right. But the interesting thing is, they support all of the social issues that are facing us as a nation, all of the big issues that are crippling us as a people: the systemic poverty, healthcare, education system, a welfare system, and all of these things. And if they're regarded as the far right, I'm just increasingly finding it so difficult to wade through the bullshit. And you have to be asking yourself the question of, like, what are we going to do? And I can't give you, I guarantee you won't be able to give me that answer either. I have a list of 20 questions I ask people. I could put 100 people in a room and ask them all the questions, and they'll all give me the same answers. At the end of the questionnaire, at the end of the questionnaire, it tells you whether you're a liberal or a conservative, or if you want to call it we won't call it. So it tells you whether you're a liberal or a conservative. And the most conservative people I meet and talk to sometimes are also the most liberal people I've met. And the most liberal people I've met are the most intolerant people I've ever met. And my mind boggles at the daftness of it, the craziness of it. I have a liberal guy telling me that I should let Palestinians into Ireland and I should house them and I should feed them while he spits in my face. Yes, of course we should allow people into Ireland, especially if they need humanitarian assistance. But I'd like to see a few friends of mine who are sleeping in doorways in Dublin housed first. I would like to see the 4,000 children who are in emergency accommodation, who are facing another Christmas, housed first. I'd like to see the 300,000 children that go miss a meal every single day of the week fed first. I'd like to see all the countless families who are living in emergency accommodation in Dublin right now, tonight, right this minute, going down to the soup kitchens and the soup runs, not having to do that. I'd like to see everybody get the medical treatment that they require. And I'd like to see all of the women who are facing long drawn out court cases, who have been let down by the HSE in the cervical cancer scandal. I'd like to see them get their justice immediately. So if that makes me a Nazi, then we're all Nazis. If that makes me the alt-right, then we're all alt-right. So it's stupid. It's just daft. So I'd like to for those people who like to make fun and criticize and stand there with scarves over their faces and hoodies and balaclavas and pretend that they're something that they're not. I'd like you to step up and create the policy and put it out for debate, and let us all debate it, and let's decide if it is worthy of your efforts. So anyway, so I think we wrap it up. I've been on for a while. I didn't mean to be on so long, I'm sorry. It is Monday evening after all, and everybody is tired after the weekend, hungover or whatever. And I would like us all to think during the week. Do your best to represent yourself and what you believe to be right. Don't listen to anybody else. Don't listen to anybody else. For those who just question everything, question why, question why such and such is saying such and such. Question, is it true? If it's true, it's true, and if it's not, it's not. But focus on empowering other people to join the movement. Focus on empowering other people to make a difference and stand up and be counted. Stop focusing on each other, arguing about stuff that that none of us have any control over. We can actually make massive impact on the political elite if we all just came together. So keep in touch, keep liking, keep sharing, keep reading, keep pushing the agenda forward. Focus on the momentum and don't get caught up in all the silliness. Every moment you waste on something negative is a moment that you could have been focused on something positive. And you don't know whether you're going to be the one that inspires another individual who is going to make the radical changes that we all require. You don't know that. You don't know whether it might be you. So lead by example. Don't look to others. Don't ask permission. Get out there and do it. Consider starting coffee mornings in your locality. A coffee morning is as simple as invite a few friends around, have a discussion, grow your little movement. You don't need our permission. The Yellow Vest movement belongs to everybody. And by the way, happy anniversary to our friends, comrades, and our friends, colleagues, and our friends, supporters who are still struggling the tyranny of their own government and the blackout from the press. They are doing stellar work, amazing work, and it isn't all about violence, but you can understand that it's coming to the stage where violence begets violence. And don't ever forget that. You push and push and push. Sometimes we push back. So without further ado, I'd leave you and say good night and God bless. I hope wherever you are tonight that you will have a little think about how we're going to go forward. Have a little think about what represents you as an individual and your family, your community, and your country. Stop waiting for others to stand up and do it. Empower yourself and start with making a start. It's that simple. In a few weeks' time, we'll be celebrating our first anniversary of pushing the Yellow Vest movement in Ireland and trying to build a movement that represents the majority of Irish citizens, regardless of their colour, regardless of the creed, regardless of the religion, because it's written in our constitution, in the Declaration of the proclamation, the 1916 proclamation. So, guys, God bless. Thank you very much, and remember, share, like, invite. God bless. Good night. God save Ireland.